on record. Welcome to our web launch of the Belgian-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce in Russia. Thank you very much to join today our meeting room. And I will let the floor immediately then straightly to Dmitry Demidenko, the CEO, the owner of the Russian famous consulting group SKIF, which Dmitry will provide us today with a legal situation in Russia, what kind of change are arrived from the coronavirus pandemic, etc. And I hope will give us few advice for the future. And then we'll also have Erzhena, who will also say a few words, and I think Erzhena must to prepare a few questions for Dmitry. Dmitry, be ready. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Oleg. Hello to everyone. It's a big pleasure to be here.
Dmitry, excuse me. Do you need to share the presentation, or you will just?
Yes, please.
Then I have to authorize. I have to authorize it. You can share.
Yes, you should give me the right to share the screen.
Normally, it's done. There is a. No, not yet. Voila. Now it's okay. You can do it.
Okay, just give me a second. I will try. Do you see my screen?
Yes, Dmitry, it's working.
Yes, very nice. So thank you, Oleg, for organization of this web launch. It's a very interesting topic. First of all, dear attendees, my apologies. Actually, English it's my third language after Russian and French, and I'm not very often make a public speech on English. So my apologies in advance for some maybe mistakes or bad words or something. But I will try to do my best in order you understand. So my name is Dmitry Demidenko, and as Oleg said, I'm a general manager and founder of SKIF Consulting. It's a group of companies. We do the legal advice for foreign business in the countries of our presence. It's actually Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus. We have also the small representation office in France and Lyon, but we don't make the consulting work there. We make it's only representative for marketing purposes. Most of our clients are from French-speaking countries. It's France, Belgium, Switzerland, etc. And we are on the market since I think 2006, so we accumulated a little bit of experience, and we are always happy to share that experience with our customers, and not only customers, with all the attendees who are interested in. So today's topic, I think, is very interesting and very important because we are now surviving the unprecedented crisis, and in my opinion, it's a very particular crisis in Russia because maybe it's the most global crisis in the modern Russia story. Because if you remember the famous default of 1998 or the crisis of 2014, it always have been the local Russian story. But today, I will say that everywhere, everything is bad. So not only in Russia, but in France, in Belgium, in the United States, it's very huge turbulence, and the subsidiaries of foreign companies here in Russia cannot even sometimes count on help from their mother companies. What we see in our practice, it's like features of the current situation, it's significant growth of the bad debts and contract failures. The forces of order who usually help companies to resolve these problems, I mean courts and bailiffs, they are extremely overloaded. But from other part, we see the government that is very active in legislative work and try to reduce a little bit the severity of the consequences. Of course, if we compare the measures of Russian government with the measures of European, for example, I will say that Russian measures are much more modest. But anyway, we see some interesting actions, and sometimes it really helps. One of the most important problem for the problems that affected the most of companies acting in the market, I think it's a problem related with the rent. So we have like two parties of the relationship, the tenants and the lessors. The both are affected. Unfortunately, the most tenants, they don't have cash reserves to survive 2-3 months of the lockdown. But it's not only problem of tenants, it's also problem of landlords, because the landlords, they, I will say, had the habit to be on the market that always have been growing, at least at Moscow and the biggest cities. But now, when the most of tenants have declared some kind of defaults, the lessors were also very affected. They were not prepared for losses, and the most of them had also business problems like high credits, the necessity to pay taxes, to maintain property, to pay for utility bills, for guards, for security, etc., etc. And because of that, the negotiation between those two parts was very hard. The government tried to introduce some new rules and tried to influence on this kind of relationship between tenants and landlords. And for example, the 1st of April 2020 was published the federal law number 98, sorry. And this law regulated a lot of relationship, including the relationship, business relationship concerning the rental agreements. First of all, you know, I think very well that the Russian government declared some sectors of economy that was affected a lot by the crisis. It's like area carriers, touristic business, restaurants, etc. And for representatives of this sector of economy, the government allowed the right to not to ask for reductions or for postponement of the rent, but the obligation to insist on this postponement or reduction of the rent. And the government gave some important conditions when this postponement can be applied. You can see it on this slide. So the conditions when the representatives of the sectors that suffered a lot from the crisis, those companies can ask the landlords for postponement for some conditions. So it's granted until the 1st of October. It's not concern the communal services, utility services, only for the rent. And it should be paid by the tranches after the January 1st, 2021. But unfortunately, or fortunately, the majority of companies was not such deeply affected by the crisis as at least our government thinks. And for the other companies, government gave also some possibilities to renegotiate the rental agreement and to find some compromise with the landlord. Of course, so it's point 2 of Article 19. It's like the possibility to negotiate the rental agreement. So it's like obvious thing, but because in the case of a voluntary agreement, of course, it's not a conflict situation, it's not a problem. But anyway, the government emphasized that you can always negotiate the amount of rent. And also very important provision in the point 3 of Article 19. It's a possibility to ask for reduction of the rent if the company could not use the real estate in the period of the lockdown. In this case, the government says that the tenant can insist on the reduction of the rent. Of course, the tenant cannot ask for like reduction to the 0. It's always question of partial reduction. But anyway, it's like granted, right? And for now, we don't have judicial court practice on these cases, but I think that the courts and the bailiffs will try to reasonably reduce, in the case of disagreement, to reasonably reduce the amount of rent for the period, at least I think April and May, the period of the most deep lockdown when the majority of companies closed their offices. So once again, you cannot ask for total annulation of the rent of the property, but you can definitely insist on the significant reduction for this period. And in the case of disagreement, you shall go to the court, and we hope that the court will judge the situation reasonably and will help to parties to find the compromise. But it's not only the rent. It's not only the question of the rent. We have a lot of other contract failures. Sometimes failure of delivery, or failure of payment to credit, etc., etc. And very, very often, we, for example, as a legal firm, we have been asked by our clients with the question, so can I just refuse to pay my credit, or can I refuse to deliver, to execute my contract, saying because we have like force majeure circumstances, and the force majeure circumstances cancel all the obligation. So I will say that it's a kind of common mistake that force majeure cancels the obligation. It's definitely not. Unfortunately, not all the contractors on the market are honest and try to do the best to execute the contract. Sometimes they try to use the reference to force majeure as a kind of universal excuse, saying that, okay, it's force majeure, I don't pay, I don't do anything. So the most important thing that you have to know that force majeure, it's the reason to avoid the responsibility for non-performance of the obligation. For example, penalties or fines or something. But it's not the excuse to, it's not the reason to refuse of the fulfillment of the obligation. And even if you insist that, for example, you have retarded the payment for the reason of force majeure, in this case, you will need to prove that force majeure circumstances was directly causative to the breach of obligation. Please be very careful if you try to use the reference to the force majeure. And in the case if someone of your counterparties also try to reference to the force majeure, you need to check if it was really a reason for non-execution or fulfillment of the obligation. Because very often it's just a reason to, I don't want to say fraud, but just to, I would say, non-honesty or something. Sometime, as you can see in the last point on this slide, if really the force majeure consequences was like the reason of the delay, sometimes the parties can refuse terminate the contract if because of delay the contract is no longer relevant for these parties. But it's always the question of the negotiation. It's always the question of the mutual agreement. So it's not the reason for like one-side refusal of the performance of the contract. And once again, the main doubt that I want I want you to know, the force majeure is not the universal excuse. Please be careful when you use the reference to the force majeure. So actually today we have had another speaker who unfortunately felt sick. Yeah, like he wanted to speak about the bankruptcy. It's like most difficult case in the current situation. Unfortunately, I think that a lot of companies will declare their bankruptcy in the nearest future because of non-survivors lockdown. But what is very important in the current situation is that now the bankruptcy can be only voluntary. It means that our government declared the moratorium on the bankruptcy. You cannot ask, you cannot go to the court to ask for the bankruptcy for your counterparties, if I'm not mistaken, until the fall, until the October. So if you have, unfortunately, some financial problems, you can ask yourself for your bankruptcy, but the contractors now have not the right to, the creditors, they don't have the right to ask for the bankruptcy. And one very important remark about the bankruptcy. Several years ago, it was like very long, very expensive, and not very effective. Now, after some very serious reforms that we had in Russia, it's still very long and still very expensive, but now it's very effective. Now the legislation gave a lot of instruments that allow to make a really effective bankruptcy procedure to, for example, ask for return the actives, the sold actives of the bankrupt company, and to satisfy the claims of the creditor. So for a moment, I will say that it's a very effective instrument. I hope it will never touch you like as a subject, but in the case if you need to recover the debt from the bankrupt company, as I said, it's still expensive, but very effective. Don't avoid to use it, and don't hesitate to go to the procedure. I'm open to answer to your question. I hope you have it. Because I think that I touched only the small part of the current legal issues that we have in the business relationship. Actually, you know, I'm also very often asked how you and your company, how you are surviving the crisis. The advantage to be a lawyer is that on the falling market and on the growing market, you always have the job. Of course, it's gives you much more pleasure to work when the market is growing. But even now, in the crisis situation, we are very, very often asked by our clients for some help, and we are trying to help them. But I think, in my opinion, that now we only in the beginning of the problem. So maybe in the autumn we will feel it deeper and harder, unfortunately. But if now, for a moment, you have some question about your issues, please don't hesitate. I will try to answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Dmitry. Erzhena, you have to add something? Microphone, yes.
Yeah. Yes, well, thank you very much. It was very interesting and fruitful information and really up to date. What I can also add, and I think it will be very useful for all participants, that our tax authorities, they provide the great online services where you can find whether your company is subject to any subsidies or any means of due to coronavirus. So it's easy to check.
Support measure, yeah, you mean?
Yes, any support measures. You can check, just put the tax identification number, and that's it. You will find it. That was really pleasant to know. Shall I ask a question or just to tell? Well, I can just proceed talking about everything as it was in the invitation letter. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Well, mostly I will again speak about our practice, which we face, and the difficulties Today, I'd like to say that there were clarifications by the Supreme Court that all meetings and decisions adopted and that on that meetings shall be certified in the presence of the notary, unless it is stated in the charter that a simplified procedure is applicable. What does it mean? Previously, it was enough just to have a shareholders meeting, simple, with no notary, just signatures, and we put a simple wording like notarized certification is not needed because these minutes is signed by all shareholders present. Now it's not enough, so we recommend our clients to check the charters to find whether this wording is implemented in the charter. If not, then it is needed to change the charter. So this is one very important thing, I think. What else? Liquidation and bankruptcy, of course. We have plenty of liquidation cases, and it's not only legal entities. There are a lot of branch offices, a lot of representative offices who are liquidating right now. Very important to know that the term is given for liquidation of a legal entity. It's 1 year. But normally liquidation lasts more than 1 year, but the law says that to prolong the term, you need to go to court. But in practice shows that it's not necessary, by the way, because a tax office just liquidates you as it is, but you should know that the risk is still there because it depends on the inspector, I think, that if inspector decides that you shall go to court. So you will be rejected in liquidation on this reason. Last in previous webinar, we were talking about measures and restrictions for the people, for employees who are back to offices, for about all the requirements prescribed by Rospotrebnadzor and by the legal acts. I had a lot of questions about what are exact documents. Can you show the proof where it's stated exactly? Because we don't know either it is obligatory or not. Well, first of all, it is a decree of Chief Sanitary Doctor of Russia. Then it is order of Moscow mayor, and of course, it's recommendations of Rospotrebnadzor. When people hear recommendations, they immediately understand that it's not obligatory. It's not obligatory, but we never know. We never know when the inspection will come, and they can impose a fine. Of course, it's possible to go to court to say that hey, it was a recommendation, but you will spend time. You will spend. You will spend money for legal services. So we also think that it's better to be prepared for this in order not to face any problems with the inspections. The frequently checked, what is frequently checked? First of all, it means of protections, masks, gloves. And the main thing is tests on corona and antibodies. It is required to have tests of 10% of all staff each 15 days. So if you want to know more, if you have any questions, you can ask because now, well, just for example, Eurolink is not really working in the office. We are still working from home remotely, but from time to time we travel to office because we think that it is a better solution right now. Then we also spoke about foreign employees. Now everybody, I think, heard that 3 countries will open the borders and there will be flights to Turkey, Tanzania, and to UK. And we think that now it is possible to travel. So we see the possibility to travel abroad, to leave Russia. But it is a pitfall again, whether it is possible to return. Because for some people who don't have visa and their countries do not issue visas to Russia, it will be it's a question. It's a matter of time. We have to wait. And one, I think, unpleasant news also we have, it's that now the coronavirus is in the list of very dangerous diseases, and it could be a reason of rejection of issuance of the work permits, any documents, and also annulment. We don't have any practice right now, so we don't know exactly how it will work. Again, time will show. So, very interesting maybe for you who did import or something, or international contracts. Maybe you know that last year, this year, there were a lot of inspections of the companies, certifications companies, who issue certificates on conformity. And that is because there are a lot of gray companies which issue certificates without real tests. And after the company did not pass such inspection, the accreditation is annulled of such company. And when accreditation is annulled, it means that all certificates issued by this company is annulled automatically. And of course, for people, for importers, for Russian buyers, for companies, it is very unpleasant news. So you have to, first of all, to go to court, try to find a way to get the certificates again. It's a long procedure, it's tests, it will take time, you will have losses. And here we recommend to be careful with your counterparty, the company you contact, to check it, to verify. And I think that what is interesting to say in general, that since we are all working remotely, there are a lot of delays in document signing, in documents delivery, etc. And we think that it's good for each company to have registers. Register of power of attorney, register of contracts, and also to keep a track on term of the powers of your general director, because it could lead to unpleasant results, like the bank account can be blocked, and this will lead to non-payment of your contractual obligations. So if you have any questions, here I can stop my short speech. You are welcome.
Thank you very much, Erzhena. But I think we have with us Elena Maximova, who sent Elena sent the questions about how the company owned by the Dutch shareholder may apply to the register of the small medium companies. May you maybe reply to the questions?
Yes, I have a reply to this question. It's not really nice reply. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, it's not possible to apply this year, because the documents, the list with the companies shall be sent in the term, between the term from 1st to 5th of July, and only this term, no other possibilities. So you have to find an audit company which will render services on compliance of the shareholder with the criteria on employees number and income. So, and it is better, well, the problem of the question, the problem of the company is that the reporting period is a little bit later than the period stipulated in our in Russia. It's July. So the only option is to try to negotiate with the Dutch company whether it is possible to move the reporting period before July, and the audit company shall receive all documents, first of all report with all tax stamps and marks at least before June 25th of June. But again, I must say that it is better to ask the audit company. They can provide you all interested information and on this point.
Okay, thank you. Edwin, you have a question?
Yes, Regina, thank you for interesting issues you mentioned. I have a question about this testing of the staff, which is probably very important, certainly when it's working with food and with customers, clients. But have you some practical details how to get this organized? Is it like a testing kit you buy as an owner, or you have to send the staff to hospital?
It is said that the company shall conclude a contract with a medical organization which provides such services like testing the employees.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think Dominic, you have a question to Dmitry.
Hello. About the renting, is it easy to rent now a new business?
Premises.
New premises, or with the coronavirus, everything is stopped? And on the legal point of view, is there any specific topic? I'm sorry, I didn't put my audio.
No problem, I hear you very well. So from the market point of view, it's really very easy now to rent because a lot of companies have lost the real estate, their business, they leave the real estate, and now it's a market of tenant and on the market of landlord. From the legal point of view, what you need to know that rental contract for 1 year and more need to be registered. If you rent for the that's like the usual reason why the majority of rental agreement in Russia are signed for the 11 months. Maybe you saw that. Because if you sign a contract for 1 year and more, you need to register this contract. But short-term contracts, usually it's 11 months, you don't have to register it. Maybe it's like most important legal issue related with the rent. For the rest, it's like the question of reasonable negotiation between you and the landlord. But once again, I have to say that you have now a lot of available real estate because it's really, unfortunately, a lot of companies have lost their business and now the prices are fallen and you have a lot of proposals on the market. And from the legal point of view, just nothing special except the question of this this 1 year and the registration.
Do they ask a deposit of 1 year, for instance, to secure their income?
Usually it's 1 month of deposit. Of course, it's like the different situation. You have some landlords, they ask for example, 3 months, but it's not very often. Usually it's 1 month of deposit. It's a common practice. In some like high quality business centers, as in Moscow city or something, sometimes they ask for 3 months. but it's not a common practice. Common practice is 1 month of deposit. And it's also the question, so for which purposes do you seek for real estate? So it's for, I don't know, medical center or for restaurants. It can be some specificity. But if it's for like trade or for office, so it's nothing special from the legal point of view.
Thank you, Dmitry. Edwin, and I see.
About the rent, the experience here was that indeed it's 1 month in advance, like security. But if you pay like half a year rent in advance, you can get a very big discount on the renting price, up to like about between 10 and 15% discount.
If you pay a full year in advance,
6 months or a year. Yeah.
Thierry, do you have to add something? Because you also have some premises which you rent in Russia.
Yes, well, I must say I was surprised, certainly everybody here, but I didn't get a lot of problems with coronavirus, because in the chocolate industry, season is from September till middle of March, just after the 8th of March, which is very important in Russia, certainly. And then after we prepared the winter season since end of March till end of August, we are preparing everything. Then, but we closed the production from the 15th of March. Already did it because in Belgium everything was already stopped, and I stopped also. I told to everybody to go to work from home, and but we start again to the production on the 15th of June. Yes, and now everybody is at office, and we are preparing the winter season. But about the renting, we get an agreement with the rental. We paid 50% of the total. And people, we paid, because they were at home after, we paid 2/3 of the salary, except my general manager. I paid a full salary because she was still working and so on. But it's, of course, I understand the difficulties for everybody, and as Dimitri told in the beginning, it's just beginning the problems. I'm thinking we will get a lot of bankruptcy and so on. But in my area, I must say, it's okay for my own business, of course.
Actually, just what I would like to say, that in our field, among our clients, the majority of our clients have successfully negotiated the rent. So maybe in 90%, they have reached the compromise with the landlord. Or we have also landlords among our clients, and they was very reasonable behavior from their part, so they have reached the compromise. But in some cases, it was some difficult cases when it was very complex situation. Even in one of the cases, the landlord have cut the electricity to the tenant, to trying to push on them to ask for the payment. But fortunately, it was an exception. And I would like to say that it's like common practice that in majority of cases, the behavior of the parties was very, very reasonable. So the parties understood that it's like a common problem, the problem that touch everyone, and they try to reach the compromise. It's sometimes it was a real pleasure to see how the people act in the crisis situation, how they reach an agreement.
Thank you, Dmitry. I would like also, I see that Philippe Nissen, our Belgian cheese producer in Russia, French and Belgian cheese producer, and I would like to ask Philippe if he also did the request to the landlord to reduce the price of your rent during the coronavirus.
Yes, hello everyone. Well, for us it was actually very, very useful. I mean, I don't know, useful or not, but the point is that our landlord immediately agreed to reduce the rent, this from the very, very beginning. And we had a very, I would say, very serious reduction, because our reduction went down to 80%. So we paid actually 20% of the rent that we used to pay before. And we are now actually renegotiating the contract, downsizing the amount of rent that we will pay until the end of the year, to see whether we, and it's not automatic that we will go back to the actual rent even in January. So we have a very understanding landlord. This is because the landlord has himself a business, or is let's say a subsidiary of a large restaurant chain, which is the Rosti Group. And so as a Rosti Group, and having restaurants themselves, they have the same problem, because they don't own all the real estate in which the restaurants are located. They own maybe 15 or 20% of those premises. So they also have the same actually situation for them and for the restaurant business, where they were obliged to renegotiate the contracts with all their landlords. And so we are, yeah, fortunately for us, we managed to do that.
Okay, thank you, Philippe. Felix, do you wish to give a comment and questions? Microphone is yes.
Yes. It is okay. Do you hear me? Hello, everyone. It is nice to meet you. I'm sorry for this noise. Actually, I'm in balcony and it's raining. So in Armenia, I would say I can provide you, I can give an example about maybe some of you know Stashid group of companies. It's mainly a Russian company, but owners are Armenians. They own main trade centers in Armenia. Many retailers left the shopping mall, and just I can give an example, like in one of their trade centers, which name is Sashi Street, the prices were starting from 30-35 USD to 50-55 USD per meter square. But today they are ready to give the premises starting from $20 to $30 per meter square, depend of the volume, depend of the surface and the contract. What are you asking for? So, but you have to sign the contract for 1 year, and they can even give you the price. They can even give you up to on this. They even give you like 2 or 3 months for free. And what happened here? Like I can tell you about Armenia, of course, but no one used before this situation, because this situation about coronavirus, like extremely situation is something new, because before we didn't use this situation in contracts, but now many companies started to renovate the contracts, so they already started to use this. So this is what I can tell you about the renting agreements between landlords and retailers and restaurators. Thanks.
Thank you, Felix. But we'll turn a little bit to the real estate, and we have also, I received a question by the WhatsApp, I don't know, to Dmitry or to Erzhena, if it's safe to start on or begin with a logistic business now in Russia in this type of crisis. What do you think? The logistic business, if
what kind of logistic? If it's like express delivery, I think it's the best moment.
Yes, yes.
If it's like tracks or something, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It depends. It really depends what kind of logistics, because the most of companies have rebuilt their like delivery processes, and as far as I know, it was a huge demand on the quick logistics services inside Moscow, Moscow region, intra regions. So it's really like very hot field of activity. But if it's international carriers, I'm not so sure.
Okay, thank you, Dmitry. If we have more questions, maybe. No questions anymore. As we decided to talk about everything, and I think we was already talking about legal, about real estate, about contracts. No one of our questions was related to the debt. I mean, non-payment on the contracts, which is surprised me, but that means that all the business go well, and it's make me big pleasure. Dmitry, it's okay. Yeah, there is no more questions sent by email. Then I propose to see each other for maybe for the next 2 weeks. We plan to organize 2 events, but they will be in Russian language. One will be dedicated to Luxembourg, and second one to Belgium for Russian IT companies. We will talk about how to provide the financing, how to create a legal entity in Luxembourg and in Belgium. We also plan to do this for Netherlands, Argena, once, but I think it will be already in September. And also, I would like to remind that our gala reception, which was supposed to be held on 2nd April, it's postponed to the 10th September in Moscow. I don't think we will organize a big event as usual for 300 people, but we will anyway organize a small meetings with our members of the board, with the ambassadors, and of course you are all welcome, or physically or virtually, because we will, I think, provide also the online version too of our gala reception. Thank you very much, dear friends, dear members, dear partner, and hope to see you in the soon future. Thank you.
Thanks.
Keep safe.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.